even know. Hi, guys. Welcome to The Magic Word. It is another week. I'm Mrs. Dr. Lupo.
And I'm Sam, and today we're going to be talking about super moms because it's friggin' Mother's Day coming up, and I'm so
Mother's
excited.
Day came up quickly this year. It's
Yes.
early.
It's already May, Sam.
That's gross.
I don't know when that happened, but
either.
I would love to hear about how quick this has been going for our new mama friend, our special guest, FemSteph.
Are we ready to meet her? Ta-da! Hello!
Time flies with a newborn.
Oh my gosh, that's an understatement.
I kind of don't remember a lot of the newborn stages anymore.
I can tell you about all of them.
Yeah, I mean, can you remind me of all the things? Welcome to The Magic Word, and welcome to talking about how we're all badass mamas and celebrating mothers and mother figures. But first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and who you are a mama to?
So my name is Stephanie. I go by FemSteph on the internet, and I've been a streamer for
For God.
Number
one viewer.
2013, 2012, 2013.
Wow.
So it's been a long time. And before that, I actually worked in the gaming industry as a marketing professional for about 6 years. So I've been doing this for a very long time. And recently, last December, I became a new mommy to my beautiful baby boy. His name is Cohen. And it has been a wild ride, let me tell you guys. Yeah.
Tell us. How wild has it been?
It's the best experience of my life. I love being a mom. He is the coolest little kid ever. He has the most amazing personality, and especially at this age, he's about to hit 5 months. He's really coming into like his own. He giggles, he laughs. You can tell like he prefers a certain toy over another one, and it's just really cool to see him develop. But man, am I tired. Let me tell you, it is barely any sleep at night, and I'm trying to juggle all the stuff that I need to juggle during the day, and it's a lot. But
Is he colicky at all?
No, he is the chillest baby ever.
Perfect.
So I have a really good friend who's also a streamer who lives close, who's also a mom, and she's been hanging out a lot with us because she was just recently moved here, and she just keeps looking at me and saying, I don't understand how you have such a chill baby. He never cries. He's like, he just kind of hangs out. And then when he does get fussy or he does cry, it's because he's hungry or he's tired. And so it's a very easy fix. And then he goes down for a nap or he eats, and then he's totally chill again. So I feel very spoiled. And I'm really scared for my second.
Yeah, Charlie was like that too, though. Charlie was super chill. He just kind of went with the flow with everything. We watched a friend's baby that was a couple months older than Charlie. So she worked as a nurse, and then I had my photography. And so we kind of just swapped, kids and stuff like that. But at 3 months old and 5 months old, I'm watching two babies. And
that's brave.
It lasted 3 weeks before I called Ben bawling and told him he needed to come home from work because I could not do it. And we called our friend that next day, and we were like, I'm sorry. Her child was just a really difficult baby, and he needed a ton of attention. He would not sleep at my house. And there was one point where Charlie was asleep in his boppy on the couch, and I was in Charlie's room trying to put this little boy down in the crib, and I finally got him down asleep, and I came out and Charlie was bawling because he had woken up and I had no clue how long he was awake for.
Oh no.
And I was like, done.
Yeah.
My kid comes first. I'm sorry. I cannot do this. I had to cancel all of my sessions for 2 to 3 weeks after that because I could not find anybody to watch him. We couldn't afford daycare at the time. And I didn't really want to send him that early just yet. And I was like, nope, can't do it. Yeah. So I'm glad though that he was such an easy baby. So I feel you there for sure.
Leif was a rough baby.
Oh,
Really?
no.
Yeah, he was extremely colicky. And my husband and I would actually make memes, like whenever like memes were in the beginning,
Hmm.
and so we would have to walk around our kitchen table for hours, absolute hours, and then as soon as he's finally asleep. You like slowly try to sit on the couch, and as soon as you do, like the weather has completely changed, and he just is up again. He was not a baby that slept. He also is a baby that never burped. I could not burp him to
Oh,
save my life.
really?
It's probably why. He cried a lot, and, like, our
Yeah.
doctor was just like, "I don't know, buy some gripe water at Walmart." And I'm just
Oh,
like,
we lived on gripe water.
yeah, we had to, and then my husband deployed whenever Leif was only 6 months old.
Oh,
So, I did the rest of, like, his first year of life all by myself. So, that was an experience.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness. You're
and then
giving me anxiety just thinking about that.
I know.
by the time dad got back, like, boy was already standing and he was starting to take, like, his first steps. And so it was a wild ride. I wish that I had more help, but at the same time, it definitely taught me that I'm so much stronger than I think.
Yeah.
And I can live on very little sleep evidently and still somehow function.
It's
Moms are
amazing
powerful.
how little sleep a person can actually need to survive. Survive is
That
the
is,
key word,
yeah.
not live. Survive.
And I am not a morning person. Like before baby, I was like sleep was very important to me, okay? Like I slept in, I luxuriate in my 12-hour days sometimes. I'm like I'm not getting out of bed. This is my life. I love being in bed. I love reading in bed. I love just snuggling in bed. And then now it is
Wake
not
up,
the
mom.
Good morning, my alarm clock is here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, today, I mean, even just right there, that just proves how literally badass. I can't say any other term that's better than that. That moms are just badass. They make and grow babies. They birth babies. Have you seen if anybody that hasn't had a baby, have you seen how big a baby's head is that has to come
Oh
out
my
of you?
god.
You start as a Cheerio and you end as a bagel. And no, nah, it's the
Yup.
bleh. And but then your body like it reforms itself,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's so and you might look different than you did before you had a baby, but it still just reforms itself to be able to do it all over again. And it's crazy. Did you know that there is something in a woman's brain that makes you forget
I was about
childbirth?
to say it's mama brain because
I
yep.
I literally just talked about this because I had a really epically bad, not bad, but it was a really hard labor.
You guys kept getting bumped back, right? You kept getting sent home and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was late, and so I was induced, and because, and I COVID babies are a real thing. I refused to believe it at the time because Brett and I were trying before COVID started. So I was just like, "No, no." And then they were like, "We are just having way too many moms come in active labor that we can't induce you." And I got pushed 4 times. And when you're
Yeah.
like that stressed out, having a baby is a really big deal. And so you're like psyching yourself up. You're like, okay, I'm going in at 6 in the morning tomorrow. I'm gonna like zen. I'm gonna like take a bath. I'm gonna like prepare my body, prepare myself mentally to go in and have this baby. And then I wake up at like, 4 in the morning. I'm getting ready. My bags are packed. And then I get a phone call and they're like, we're sorry. We're pushing you back. Well,
Oh,
you'll get a
no.
call at like 2 p.m. if we can have you in today.
If
So
we
No.
then
can
you're like
squeeze you in.
resetting. Yeah, exactly. You're resetting. You're like, okay, I can go back to sleep. 2 p.m., 2 p.m., 2 p.m. So then you're like doing the whole thing over again, trying to zen out, trying not to have a panic attack, trying not to have all this anxiety. And then 2 p.m. comes around, you get another phone call. We're sorry, we're gonna push you back, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And it happened 4 times. So 2 full
No.
days I got pushed.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I
And
was
then I got
induced. And it was nice though because I wasn't pushed back because I had the same thing you had where we got up, we had to be there at 8 in the morning. We got up, Ben made me breakfast, I showered, we sauntered in. There was somebody that came running past us that was in active labor and we're like, that's fine. We'll just hang out here because it's been 2 weeks and this boy's not moving at any time soon, so I'm fine. And I can't imagine just having to be kicked back
Yeah.
4 times.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
a lot on your brain.
Yeah, that's stressful. I only got pushed
Mhm.
back a few hours because my water broke at the hospital, like, right after my doctor appointment, and I was like, "Oh, we just need to go to the 3rd floor," and they were like, "Yeah, you're in active labor, but, like, can't feed you if we admit you, so, like, if you wanna go home for a few hours and, like, enjoy your time," I was like, "Thanks." They're like, "Just come in at, like, 7 p.m. and we'll get you in." I was like,
That should
"Alright."
be enough time.
Yeah,
Were
so I
you
just went home and chilled, and then
Did you have to be in the hospital room alone with
No,
COVID? Okay, that's good.
thankfully not. I live in an area where COVID wasn't super bad ever. Like it wasn't crazy, crazy. So there's definitely restrictions. I could only have one person in the room and stuff like that. But Brendan was with me the entire time. So
I
that
had a
was
friend that had to do it all alone.
oh,
Yes.
I couldn't even imagine. So
And
that was the biggest thing for me when I found we were in lockdown for about 3 weeks when I found out I was pregnant. And so obviously what's the first thing you do? You Google pregnancy during a pandemic. And so I'm sitting there in the bathroom floor holding this pregnancy test with my phone, reading about women in New York City where it was like basically ground zero. And these women are like giving birth solo and not being able to see their kid for like 2 weeks and like
Yeah.
all and I'm just sitting there about to have a mental breakdown like,
no.
"Oh my god, what am I about to do?" And so then, I grabbed Brendan and I was like, "Hey, I have something to tell you." And then I was like, "I'm pregnant." And his reaction is what made me feel so much better because he was just so over the moon. He, like, grabbed me, picked me up, twirled me around. He was, like, crying so happy, and I was like, "Wait, this is" I, like, had to stop myself mentally and be like, "Wait a second. This is a good thing. We've
Yeah.
been trying. This is what we wanted." So, yeah.
Yay!
Oh, I can imagine, like, how your brain was triggered in different directions because, I
Mhm.
mean, first off, your emotions are high, hormones and all that, hello,
For
and then
sure.
wanting that baby for so long, but also like, "Oh, wait, we're in a
Yeah,
pandemic that we've never been in before. How does this work?"
I know.
It's
It
so
was a
weird.
lot.
Well, this
But
weekend
then
is Mother's Day, and we are gonna I have a few fun facts about Mother's Day. I'm just gonna run through
Oh,
some because a lot of these were actually and just about moms in general. First Mother's Day was celebrated in 1908. There are roughly 2 billion moms in the world.
wow.
bless up,
Crazy.
mamas.
Carnations are the most popular flower for Mother's Day. It is also the most popular holiday to get flowers. Like I think it was 1/4 of the yearly flower sales happens on Mother's Day.
More
Um,
so than Valentine's Day? That's so
yeah.
interesting.
That is
hmm
interesting.
The shortest interval recorded between births is 208 days or 6.5 months.
How does
What?
that even work?
Is that a preemie?
One baby was born very early.
Wow.
I had a client that her 2 kids were 9.5 months apart. She got pregnant at 6 weeks after she had her first baby.
No, ma'am. Absolutely not.
Right? No, no, thank you.
6.5 weeks, I was still like, "Don't touch me." Like,
Yeah.
why
That's literally my first thought. I was like, "Dang,"
But
like
have you ever heard of people that like they get pregnant 2 weeks after they have their kid because they get I don't know you can just get frisky and you're still susceptible to getting
But,
pregnant
like,
right after.
TMI, you're bleeding so
Right? You
much.
must have like really just needed something 2 weeks
I
after
mean,
birth.
there's a lot going on down there.
Yeah. No. No. 6 weeks minimum before I was even like remotely ready to look down there and see what was going on.
Oh, ooh. No,
Oh
Wow.
man. Mother's Day is the second most popular holiday after Christmas. The mom with the
really?
most kids, yeah, that surprised me too. Is
For, like,
that
Halloween or
nope?
Thanksgiving or
Second
Easter?
most popular. More people celebrate Mother's Day than they do Halloween.
Good, they should. You know what I'm saying? Like, mamas.
All about the mama.
Celebrate.
The mom with the most kids is Fyodor Vasilyev, Russian last name, from Russia, who had 69 kids
That
Nice.
is absurd.
between 1725 and 1765.
She knew what number she was stopping on.
So in 40 Wait,
They're at 16, she's like,
1725
"Honey,
to
one more."
1765. That's 40 years?
That's okay, they're literally those babies are walking out. By the 20th kid, those babies are walking out
Yeah.
themselves. There's no
Yeah.
way. That's crazy.
Oh,
I
there
don't
it
even know,
has
like, how the
to
body
be like a C-section every time at a certain point.
You think so?
Oh, for sure.
Wait, when was this?
1725 to 1765.
Were
When was
C-sections a thing? Because they
when
didn't
they
have,
said
like,
yeah,
blood
when was the first
transfusions and
C-section?
stuff. Let's do a Google. When was the first C-section? It
'Cause
was in the 1500s,
yeah.
Wow.
right?
I think it was a black doctor that did the first C-section.
It was in
Success.
Switzerland. Jacob Neuffer?
No, Tyler, they walked out. They
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah, no.
And there had to have been multiples in there somewhere, like twins, triplets, to get to that number. Mm.
Oh,
No.
yeah, for sure. They probably had to have
69 kids in 40 years.
that math.
I don't like it either.
I don't even want to know the average kids of
That
per
means,
year.
like, the entire 40, those entire 40 years, she was either pregnant or giving birth the entire time.
Yeah.
Just back to back.
She apparently was
nonstop.
frisky 2 weeks after having birth every single time.
Yeah.
Could you imagine your body
No.
going through that?
Uh,
You're never down on hormones. Like, your
No.
hormones always elevated. Your emotions, I wonder how much that woman cried. She probably cried a lot. She probably, like, would look at the sunshine and be like, "It's
I want to know
beautiful."
how she took care of them.
Well, at some point, the
Took
kids
care
were
of each
taking care of themselves, right? The older
Oh,
person taking care of the
man.
youngest.
The modern
That's
mother
crazy.
tends to be older, educated, and single.
Oh, yes, she do.
I
Go, girl.
don't know about the
wait.
single part. If that's like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is it because they're single because they don't need no man other than to make the baby, or is it single because things didn't work out and they just
Yeah.
have to be a single?
Or is it single, like, marriage status? Because technically,
Yeah.
I'm a single woman and I have a baby.
Correct. Okay. Yeah.
Because it is true. A lot of my friends who are having kids and stuff are not waiting to be officially married before they
Yeah.
start families. So
And that's definitely like a huge change in modern society now too.
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
that-
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think
Or
of
they're
it that
all
way
having
too.
one baby.
So that totally makes sense. That older, educated, and single, 100%.
Mhm.
The months where babies are most born is July and August. I'm an August baby.
ooh, I'm July. Let's go.
My husband's an August
In
baby, too.
the Lupo family, it's my birthday, Charlie's birthday, and 3 other cousins, all born in August.
Wow.
Why is
I don't. What's 9 months before August?
I guess it's cold and everyone's getting cozy. I
It's
suppose.
November.
So, like, Thanksgiving,
Yeah, everyone's
thankful and making babies.
there you go.
Thank you for you today, baby.
Thankful. Let's make a baby. The most popular day of the week is a Tuesday. Charlie was born on a Tuesday
I'm gonna look
because
Yeah, me too,
Mondays
actually.
they probably induce a lot of people, and then it takes about 24 hours ish to have a kid for most people when they're induced. And
we're on a Sunday.
Life was a Wednesday.
but yeah, Charlie was a Tuesday because we went in on the 11th of August.
Oh my
That's
God.
crazy.
I went to labor.
You're
on
right.
Tuesday.
Because I was supposed to be induced on the 8th, but we got pushed back 2 days. So he was on the 10th. It's so interesting.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
I went
crazy?
to
That makes
labor
sense
on
then.
Tuesday.
The
I gave
most
birth.
popular birthday, and I'm curious if anybody listening is October 5th. Does anybody know anybody
It's
born
almost October 3rd. So close.
almost your birthday? You're close.
Oh, no. I was
Or not your
thinking
birthday,
of girl.
yeah. Oh yeah.
No, mine's December 4th.
Yeah, sorry. I remembered yours at the beginning of the month, and so when you said that, I was like, "That's like yours." So yeah, October 5th is your mom's. Okay, someone in chat's mom's birthday. My nephew's born October 5th. There you go. Approximately 1.2% of children have a stepmother in the United States. I have 2 stepmothers.
Oh,
I'm very lucky. My parents are still married.
mine are too.
72% of moms work compared to 39% in 1976. That stat was from 2017, I think.
Wow.
Toddlers require this. This is for you, Steph. Here, toddlers require mom's attention once every 4 minutes, or 210 times a day.
Oh boy.
How many times do you hear, "Mommy, mommy, mommy"? Charlie does not ask Ben for anything. He can literally be sitting next to Ben, and then he yells across the house for me. I'm like, why didn't you just turn to your father and ask him?
Blake's a big kid now, and he's still like, I was in the kitchen earlier making my coffee, and he's supposed to be in school, but he hears me, and so he runs out of his room. He's like, "Mom, can I have a hug?" And I'm like, "Sure, baby." So I give him a hug, and then he runs back to his room. And I'm just like,
There's
"You're not
just,
a kid without permission."
and this is why, this is, scientists believe that this is why there's that connection, is mothers literally hold a piece of their child inside them called microchimerism, where they, because when the baby's in your stomach, you exchange cells. And so you have cells from your children in your body, and they've been found up to multiple decades later, still in a
Wow.
woman's body.
That's cool.
And there was a couple other facts that there was like a super high percentage that the mother's voice, obviously because baby's in your stomach, a mother's voice is more calming than any other sound to a baby. A mother's smile, the babies react to the mother's face way more. Again, makes sense because baby is attached to mom usually.
I wonder how that works with surrogacy, because I've given birth to 4 other children that aren't mine
Right.
biologically, but I wonder if because, like, their, like, sac was attached to me, or their, placenta. I was like, "What's the word?" And everything. So, I don't know, but what I used to do is I would wear these bell necklaces that always sat on my belly, and they would jingle, and as soon as I gave birth, I gave it to the mom so that they would hear that sound, and they would relate it to, like, "Oh, this is where I'm comfortable." So I wonder if
That's
that's
such a
So
sweet thing.
cute. Oh
But I
my
bet you your
goodness.
Suro babies, if you saw them within the first few months after they were born, they would react to you more
Yeah,
than.
they call me mama. All of them do, but that's just because that's what the families have them call me. It doesn't bother me at all. I feel like an aunt,
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I'll just have to ask them in 20 years. "Hey, do you, like, feel something? Like, do we vibe?"
Do you feel this unexplained connection to me? And is it because you were inside me for 9 months?
Like, Leif feels really close to them, and, like, he's learning Mandarin and they're learning English so they can talk to each other, and, like, they feel close to each other. And whenever we went to China and saw the twins specifically, Leif and Romeo were running around, like, this, water area around Shanghai, and as soon as we had to, finally say our goodbyes, they just both started bawling, like, and it was their first time seeing each other since the twins were 2 months old. And, they were just both so sad. But Juliet, she was funny. She was just like, "Why y'all crying?" I love sisters. They're great. But yeah, no, it affected, the boys. So, I don't know. That's so interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah. It's crazy, the connection between a mother and a child. And especially when you don't have like a traditional mother figure. You have like aunts and grandparents and stuff like that, that take care of you. You will always have that connection no matter the situation to the person that gave birth to you.
Hmm.
It's so crazy.
That's
So
great.
there's just some fun facts that I saw, and I was just like, yeah,
Those are
moms
fun
are
facts.
freaking sweet. So, Steph, we talked about you being a new mom and
Mhm.
with Cohen, and you talked about sleep being a big change. Was there any other big changes that you weren't like, prepared for that you're like, wait, I don't get to sleep now?
Yeah.
Let's see. Sleep. I mean, they're all the cliche ones, right? So, like, everyone that says you don't get sleep in the first year, totally true. You just, again, you don't, I guess I didn't really understand how that would manifest though, because you're still like sleeping, you're in your bed and at like during the night hours, but you're waking up. For me specifically, I'm waking up every 3 hours to breastfeed him in the middle of the night. And it's just, and then all the developmental leaps too, so, like, sleep regression and the changes there, it's just so many layers to it that I just never really expected, I guess.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding was a huge challenge in the beginning too. You think, "Oh, breastfeeding, obviously, baby knows how to do it, mom knows how to do it, super easy, just pop them on the boob and they start eating. Well, that is not true. And the
Nope.
first week was absolutely really, really hard and,
Oh,
painful and scary. And then just kind of like continuing off that, it's moms are actually superhumans because it's not only crazy that we grow like humans inside of us and then we give birth, but then for like if you choose to for the first year of their life or however long you're breastfeeding, you're also nourishing their bodies and growing them and all of that stuff. So my kid, he's a little on the leaner side. So, there's these growth charts and they talk about percentiles and all of that stuff. And so there's this added pressure, at least for me, where
Mm-hmm.
if he's not, growing at the expected rate of other kids and blah, 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 you feel like it's your
it's your
fault. Your body's not providing enough nourishment or whatever and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of challenges there for me. And I've had to really take a step back and talk to, professionals like lactation consultants and stuff like that to get different perspectives on things because there's just some crazy amount of anxiety that comes with the responsibility of not only like taking care of your kid on a day to day, but also like feeding your kid and making sure he's growing and making sure he's healthy and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
the responsibility of, you think, oh, I'm a parent, obviously, but just the amount of like,
Stress.
yes, just the emotional
That's the
response
only
and the
word.
physical response and just your whole being changes. Like your whole mental health, just everything is directed towards your kid and your kid's well-being and like you take a back seat. And so like also remembering to take care of myself and give myself moments and time and all of that stuff has been super important too.
Dang, even whenever you're breastfeeding specifically, because what you
Mhm.
consume is what baby gets. So you're even more
Mm-hmm.
mindful of like, oh, I really would love this, but I don't know if my baby wants this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
you have to be super mindful. Also, this might be a TMI and you don't have to answer it, but so breastfeeding was so hard for me in the beginning. I had to use what's called a nipple shield. Did you ever have to use one of those?
I tried, but it was like he was not into it. And actually like it's translating now and I'm like kicking myself so hard right now, but so I had a really huge oversupply of milk in the beginning. So I was
Oh.
like really engorged. It was really painful. And I have a really strong letdown. So he was having a really hard time with that. He was like choking
Drowning.
and gasping for air and all this stuff. It was like really bad, right? And so me and a lactation consultant worked together to try and get that all situated. Um, so I was not pumping and because I wasn't pumping, I wasn't giving him a bottle. So now he will not take a bottle. He makes like
Mm,
the foulest face in the world. He's like,
how dare you?
Get this rubber nipple out of my face. That's not mom.
I
I
want
don't want
mom.
anything to do with it." Yeah, so now he won't take a bottle, which is again really hard because I have to feed him every 2 to 3 hours. So there's no like, "Hey babe, I'm going to go get my nails done for a little bit." Like when little man gets hungry, just, give him a bottle. Like I have to be there to feed him because he refuses it. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't pump either. Pumping is painful.
I
I
pumped
don't think people realize
exclusively.
it. Really?
Yep.
wow.
So it was after 3 days in the hospital, Charlie, it just hurt. I cried. I tried to find every possible excuse to not feed him. And everyone's like, on the outside, his latch looked great. But it wasn't until the last day that a nurse that happened to be a client of mine, she came in because she saw me on the list and she was just coming in to say hi and to congratulate me. And she's like, when he's done, does your nipple look like a pencil eraser or does it look like a tube of lipstick? And I said, it looks like lipstick. And he's like, he's trying to eat from your skin
Oh.
instead of from the actual nipples. On the outside, his latch was great, but on the inside, he was trying to basically eat from underneath my nipple and couldn't get any food. That's why it was hurting because he was just sucking on skin and nothing was happening. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. It hurts so bad. And they're like, go home and try a couple days. We'll talk to you at your doctor's appointment. There was a time that I felt like throwing my child
I felt like
because
that once.
Oh my
And
god.
after that, I looked at Ben, and it was 2 a.m. All three of us were bawling because I didn't want to feed him. Charlie was hungry, and Ben didn't know how to help us. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And so I was like, well, we have that pump. And he's like, oh, okay, how do we do that? And so we're like Googling, like, how do you sterilize pump parts? Why this child is screaming in the background. And that first bottle, he took it right away because he was so hungry.
Mhm.
It was silent. I vividly remember standing in our old kitchen, and we had one light above the sink, and that was the only light that was on. And looking down at him was the first time I felt love towards him.
Oh.
And it just I pumped exclusively. That's all he had for 4 months. After 4 months, we started to introduce formula. I still pumped all the way up until 9 months. And then we had a surplus left where he had one full mommy milk bottle every single day until he was 14 and a half months. And we bought a deep freeze. I went all in. And when you pump, you're feeding two kids. You're feeding the bottle, and then you're feeding the baby. And I, cried over spilled milk and spoiled
Oh
milk
yeah.
because it's literally liquid gold when
Uh-huh.
when you can't feed your kid. So
Oh god, I'm oh my god, my heart right now. There's like so much empathy here because like when you again, so okay, here's a perfect example. So I've been monitoring Cohen's weight a lot because I said he's on the leaner side and I just want to make sure that he's not losing percentiles and stuff like that. And it's really hard for me because he's such a happy baby. Like everyone keeps telling me, if he's hungry, you'll know. He'll be discontent, he'll be fussy, he'll be like really upset and all this stuff. And he's so happy. I'm like, obviously he's not hungry, right? I'm doing a good job feeding him. And then you put him on the scale and he was, under the 50th percentile. So I'm sitting here like, am I not doing my job? Right. So yesterday, or 2 days ago, I'm like, hey, Brennan, can you put the baby on the scale? He's like, okay, sure. So he puts the baby on the scale. He's like, why does it say hello as like where the weight's supposed to be? I'm like, Brennan, you have to like wait for the hello to go away. And then when you see zeros, you put them on. He says, okay. So he's holding the baby and he's using his big toe. He turns off the scale and he turns it back on. And then he puts the baby on the scale and it gives us a number. And my like heart like fell out of my butt, right? I was just like, what? And I was like, no, 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 that can't be right. So I'm like zeroing the scale. I'm double checking it. I'm whatever. So that basically the scale is saying he lost 8 ounces. And that's huge at this
right.
age, right? I'm like having a full blown panic attack. I'm freaking out, right? And so Brennan has to go stream. Brennan's working. I'm sitting there. I'm like rocking my baby in the rocking chair, like telling myself to take deep breaths. I'm like, it's okay. I schedule him an immediate doctor's appointment. I run downstairs. I'm like putting formula in a bottle. I'm trying to shove it in his face. I'm like, you have to take this bottle, please. Like, this has to happen. Like, I can't. And I'm full blown mental breakdown. I go back upstairs. I'm like, okay, I'm going to weigh him one more time. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's a mistake. I go and I look at the scale. Well, Brennan's big toe changed the unit of measurement. So it was showing just pounds and not pounds and ounces.
Oh
So
no.
it was like,
It was
point 8.
rounding.
Yeah. So it was like point
Okay.
0.8 pounds, which in ounces is like 14 ounces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally was sitting there and I was like, oh my God. And I
Oh.
run downstairs and I'm like, Brennan, you just literally gave me a heart attack. And he's like, what happened? What happened? And I was like, you changed the unit of measurement. And for him, he doesn't understand, right? Like
Yeah.
he's like concerned, but it's not this. There's not the same feeling attached to it for him because he's
Mm-hmm.
not the one physically feeding his child from his body, right? Like there is a definitely like success or failure mental tie to like your child's health when you're the one exclusively providing the nutrition. And so I was just like, you can't do that to me anymore. Can we from now on please, 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 please check
Make sure.
and make sure. So yeah.
If it
And
makes you feel any better, Charlie is 5 and a half, will be 6 in August. He is just getting into 4T clothing, and I still have to roll them because they're too big for him. But he's tall enough that the 3T is too small. Around Cohen's age and all the way up until about 2, he was in the 2 percentile for weight.
wow.
And we were doing feeding classes, and I was literally putting heavy whipping cream in his milk every single day, 3 times a day, and he just doesn't gain weight. The kid has gained 1.5 pounds in 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's just that Ben and I were skinny babies. Look at Ben now. He's 6'4" and he's very tall and thin. And I'm a fairly thin person too. My parents are, his parents super were. And so it was just one of those things. But the first time the doctor told me that I needed to give him more food, I needed to slather everything in butter and mayonnaise and all this kind of stuff. I looked at Ben and I was like, are we killing our kid? Because he's not. And Ben's like, that's an exaggeration. I'm like, but is it? Like, that's just what this doctor made me feel like, that I am not feeding my kid. And it's a lot of stress. So I feel you.
So
And
stressful.
just know that, like everyone says, if he's hungry, he's hungry. The numbers are stupid. It's the same thing with it that they say with women and everything, is that it's just a number on a scale. As long as he's growing. But oh man, I listening to you were talking about anxiety with me with pumping. Listening to you, I was like flashbacks to being like, we're out of heavy whipping cream.
No, I never had to deal with that personally. Leif has always been in the higher percentile for his height and then pretty normal for his weight. But hearing this, I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Friends, I want to hug you. You're and cute."
Well, that's the thing. He's like 93 percentile, in the high 90s for height, and
Mhm.
he's like 25th or something like that for weight. And again, thankfully I love my pediatrics team. They're wonderful. And I had a really great call with my lactation consultant, and she was like, hey, it's not about the percentile he falls into. It's about whether or not he stays on that curve. So if it's
Right.
his own percentile and he's going to be 25th his whole like infancy, that's totally fine. That's great. As long as he's continuing to gain weight on his own curve, we're happy with that. And I was
Yeah.
like, so that's why when I thought he like lost
Lost
8 ounces, I was like,
half a
oh my
pound.
God.
Oh
What's
my
happening? And he's like got chubby little milk cheeks and his little thighs are chunky. And so I'm like, there's no like the disconnect. And I had just gotten myself to the point where I wasn't obsessively weighing him. I've been really enjoying breastfeeding. Every time I do, it's just like the best little session with him where I look at him and I just feel so much love and joy. And so like I've been in a really good place with it recently. And then yesterday or 2 days
Then
ago,
just
It's a mess. Did y'all ever get your measurements of your kids like head circumference?
oh, Charlie's a giant head.
percentile.
My son was in 99 and he's still he's got a big old head, but we
Yeah.
just got his height. That our doctor or his doctor was like, yeah, your son's gonna be well over 6 foot because he's got to grow into this head still. And I'm like, all right.
Ben and I both have
go.
fairly large heads. Charlie was always in like the 80s for head size and stuff like that. But then he's in the 2 percentile for his weight. I was like, poor bobblehead Charlie. Like,
My brother was the same way. He used to fall up the stairs. And so my parents took him to the doctor because they were just like, there's got to be something, wrong with his equilibrium or his brain or something. And the doctor was like, no, his head's just big. He's just got too much weight on top and not enough on the bottom. And now he's 6'4". So like he grew into
Yeah.
it.
Ben's brother,
But, yeah.
I'm not going to say who because he has 3, but one of Ben's brothers couldn't sit up until he was almost a year because his head was too big.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's so
I'm
good.
so excited for this. Okay,
Um,
so
did
speaking
you?
of big heads though, my baby took 4 hours of active labor to come out because his head was so big.
Oh, we want to swap a war story with that too.
Oh.
My
What's the war
5'2" doctor climbed onto the table on her knees between my legs with the clamps because Charlie was stuck on my pubic bone because his head was so big. And Ben said he has never seen veins pop out of a person so much than her when she just went full on in there. And she's like, you got to push. And it was an audible pop when
We all
Charlie.
have the same story. What the heck?
Oh,
The only thing
So-
with Leif, though, is that he had his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck
Okay.
twice. So, like,
Ugh.
as soon as they got him out, they had to get that off of him.
Mhm.
But,
So
yeah.
I was in labor for 16 hours and I was induced, right? So
Yeah, 22
they
for
were
me.
giving they were giving me Pitocin, and For the most part, if you're induced, your labor is always just gonna be longer because
Mhm.
that's just how it works. I'm sitting there in the hospital, and I have a really, really high pain tolerance. I've always known this, but I'm in active, like, having contractions, and the nurses, because they hook you up to all these machines, right, are like, "So, can you feel that?" And I'm looking at them, I'm like, "Feel what?" And they're like, "You just had, like, a major contraction." I was like, "Oh, really? I didn't really feel anything." I'm on 0 pain meds, right? And so they're, like, flabbergasted. They're, like, bringing in multiple nurses, and they're like, "This is so crazy. She doesn't feel her contractions." And that is really weird. So I don't
That's a
know.
blessing in
Some
my
women
eyes.
just, yeah, just I guess don't, it happens, it's rare, but I really did not feel. I got to 7.5 centimeters, and I was just like, I don't, it's kinda uncomfy, but, like, not really crazy." So
Oh
they were
my
like, "Oh my god, you're gonna have such an easy labor. There's you just this is like a breeze, right?" Well, they were like, "Well, you can't, we can't give you any more Pitocin. This is as fast as it's gonna go." And we were already 16 hours in. And they're like, "So we would really recommend letting us break your water because then it'll just like jumpstart everything and we'll start going real quick here." And I was like, "Okay, I want an epidural." I
Yeah.
was under no, like, it was always in my birth plan since well before I got pregnant that I wanted an epidural, right? So she's like, "Are you sure you're not experiencing any pain right now? Like, I really think you're a great candidate for like an all natural birth." And I was like, "Lady, give me the needle." So they're like, "Okay."
my body.
Exactly. So the anesthesiologist is on call, and basically she's sleeping, and then she gets a call to do an epidural. It's like 2, 3 in the morning at this point. And she comes in and she looks at me, and then she looks at the whiteboard, and she looks at me and she goes, "What's happening here? I don't understand." And the nurses are like, "It's weird, huh?" She's like, "I've never in the 25 years I've been an anesthesiologist gotten a call at like 3 in the morning to do an epidural and walked into a silent like delivery
Yeah.
room." She's like, "What is going on here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just don't really feel anything, but like I want to give birth with, you know, no pain." She was like, "Are you," anyway, so they give me the thing, they pop my water, everything starts going pretty crazy. Like within, I don't know, 10 minutes, you could see his head, right?
You
And so
flick.
everyone, the entire staff is like, "Oh my god, this baby's gonna be out in no time, like 5 more pushes," right? No. Homie gets stuck. Like, I'm, like, sitting there, I'm like, "Okay, I'm strong, I'm muscular, like, I got this, right? I'm pushing as literally as hard as I can. Nothing is happening." So we go, and um, I didn't have one OB on staff, so it was like a rotating staff of OBs, right? So once
Mhm.
their shift was up, the next would come. So I had 4 OBs on my whole delivery plan. And the last person to come in, so it was 3 women, and I've never had a male OB in my entire life. The last OB to come on shift is this like 6'4", tall, lean gentleman. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, "What's happening?" He comes in, he's like, "Hello, I'm on your service now." And he's like, "Oh, I can see things are progress." And I'm sitting there like, "No, no, 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 no. What's happening?"
What?
And at this point, I'm just like so stressed out. And he goes, "Would you like me to use the vacuum or the whatever, the suction thing?" And I looked at Brennan and I was like, I don't want our baby to have a cone head, okay? So no, I
No.
refused it. So he's like, "Okay, I really need," and for some reason, I think it's because it was a man, I don't know, I got like really like competitive. I was like, "No, I can do this. I will push out this baby." So I'm sitting there and pushing and pushing and pushing. Another hour and a half goes by, and he's like, "Okay, I really need to help you here. I'm gonna snip you. I'm gonna give you an episiotomy." And I was like, "Heck no, there's no way. It's not happening. That's a hard no for me." He's like, "Okay, well then you need to push harder." And I looked him dead in the eye. I was like, you've got to be joking. Push harder." So finally I'm like, "You know what? Whatever." And I just like give it all I got. 4.5 hours later, a baby pops out. I have like second degree tears. It's awful. And I'm sitting there with baby on my chest, and I'm just like, how do women do this? Like,
Right?
I literally look at the,
Multiple times.
yes, and I'm
We
looking at the
forget.
staff, and that's so good. It's so funny you mentioned that, Sam, earlier because I was thinking about it, and like, I don't know, not even 5 weeks after I gave birth, I'm like looking at Brennan and I'm like, I want to have another one right now. And he's like, are you sure about that? Because I was there for the labor and you did not look happy. And I was
Oh,
like, labor, what happened? And I was like, it becomes like this
a memory.
hazy fog, and you're like, I don't
Uh-huh.
really remember how awful and terrible it was. But yeah,
My
Until you
last one
start
was my
swapping war stories and then it all comes
comes back.
flooding back. I was the so you felt nothing for a long time. I
yeah.
being induced to I lasted 4.5 hours before I looked at Ben and I was like, I can't, I'm done. I cannot feel I cannot do this anymore. They had to, so when you have your epidural, then you can push a button and they give you like a little extra whoosh of pain meds.
Mhm.
I did that. So I got the epidural. I got the whoosh of pain meds. I got another whoosh of pain meds. I got another full epidural and then another whoosh of pain meds. And I still felt practically everything.
Shut up.
And they're like, we don't understand why this is not working on you. And there's one point that my tendon, so on one of my hips, my tendon's super tight and it pops over the joint. It got stuck.
Ugh.
And so Ben had to like move the nurses out of the way, and he's like, "This is the only way we can get her leg to get unstuck." And he did the whole leg movements that I taught him 13 years ago when we first started dating to help me when this happens. And they're like, "Okay," but yeah, that pain the whole time, and I was like, "Why is this not working?"
My last one, giving birth to Olivia, hers was the worst and best labor I had. I don't know how to explain it. So she was late, so I definitely had to get induced. I was at 42 weeks, I think. But I got the epidural and it only worked for my left butt cheek and my feet.
Oh
And they were like, "We can't reinsert it." And so they like would lay me on my side and they had a stirrup while I'm on my side and like my legs, I'm like wide open,
no.
looking out into the world just on my side because of they're trying to get the medicine to move.
Oh no.
And
They come in and
I'm
like
just
start
like, ow,
massaging you
ow,
to get it to
ow.
move around.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just sitting there, ow, 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 for hours because it's not doing anything. But she was the easiest birth. Like she came right out, a few pushes and she was good to go. Then again, I have given birth a few times, so maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Uh, but the labor sucked. The actual pushing was phenomenal. And then like it's
Gosh.
crazy because as soon as you get baby out, any symptom you had is gone. You're no longer nauseous. You're
Yeah.
no longer like feeling those tummy cramps.
You're
Like,
just
well, not
tired.
yet. It's probably
Oh,
been
really? I got really weird symptoms. I got
what?
the shape.
Oh
Oh,
no.
huh.
Yeah. Apparently, it can be a side effect of like a sudden drop in your hormones. Like it was almost like I was cold. I was like
Oh,
shivering, but
yeah.
I wasn't cold, obviously. So my whole body was just, it was so weird. I couldn't stop it. You know what? Like, you know, when you're really cold and if you concentrate, you can stop the shivering.
Mm-hmm.
There was none of that. My whole, like, just like my muscles were like, it was really crazy. It was really weird.
Ugh.
So,
Yeah, no,
looking at our list
it was
of questions,
wild.
we're only like on the third question.
We're just having a good time.
So this is gonna be a lot of war stories. I'm gonna flip it real quick and just go through a few of these questions, because we're talking about mothers and obviously about how badass we are as mothers. But do you have a mother figure in your life? You
I
guys
do.
want to? If Steph go first, Sam, you can go next, and then I'll go after that, and we'll just talk quickly about each one of them.
Yeah, my mom is amazing. So my mom is she was born in Taiwan. She met my dad overseas. They got married in Taiwan and then she moved here and they got married officially in the US. And then she had me. So, you know, I have this mom who speaks very little English, who's in a new country. My dad was traveling a lot for work, so he'd be gone for like 3 weeks at a time sometimes because he worked in the shoe business. So the factories are over in Asia, so he'd have to go check on like the prototype and the samples and then come home. So he was gone a lot. So my mom is raising this kid a lot of the time solo and trying to like figure out how to make it in America and she had a lot of cultural hardships when raising me because you know in Asia there is this really strong sense of you know your respect your elders and like your mom is her word is law and all that stuff. And I'm this little like shithead American kid running around like sass talking. And I was a very sassy child. And so we had a lot of struggles when I was younger. But, now that I am a parent myself and now that I'm an adult and I realize how hard the real world is and how hard it is to like make money and raise a kid and all of that stuff, like my respect for her has become so immense just because I can't even imagine how tough that would be to be in her position. So, we have a great relationship now, but growing up it was really tough. But I'm grateful that I have her. When I had my kid, my dad and her came and stayed with us for 5 weeks. It's a really big tradition in Asian culture that, they have a really big sense of like family and community. So she came and cooked dinner and breakfast and lunch and went grocery shopping and cleaned my house and took care of my dogs and did all of the amazing stuff to let me and Brennan focus on learning how to be parents for those first 5 weeks.
Nice.
And it was the most, I am so grateful. I 100% plan on paying it forward with my kids one day because it was such a huge, huge, huge help. So,
Oh, that's such a sweet story.
Yeah, I know. I'm like
I love that.
jealous.
So, I still have my mom in my life. She's always been like the figure for me to look up to with literally anything. I suddenly have a headache, and she's like, "Well, it could be this, Sam, and here's what medicines you need to use." So, love her in her nurturing ways. I come from a family where there's 7 kids. So I've always watched my mom be a mom. And my dad is in the army, so he was always gone on TDYs or came home really late for recruiting duties and things like that. So my mom was always extremely hands-on with us. Um, so I learned a lot of how to be a fun mom while also like, given that look of what you doing? And getting in trouble. And unfortunately, my mom wasn't allowed to like be around for the birth and stuff because I'm a military wife, well, former military, but and so we were across the country and it just wasn't easy with her current health conditions and stuff. But I call her all the time. Anytime there's a thing, and I'm just like, okay, what about at this age? Like Leif has a fever and these symptoms, and like I know you're not a doctor, but like you've been through it so many times. Is there something you can tell me? And she will, and she'll be like, "Yeah, it could definitely be this." And 99% of the time, she's right. I will give her that. So it's nice knowing that she's been through so many children, different circumstances each time. 3 of us born really sick. So I know that there's knowledge there to help me. And there's one thing that she told me whenever I called her when Leif was like just screaming in my arms when he was a baby. And I was like, "Mom, how do I get him to stop?" And she's like, "You just love him." And so I did, like, I just held him because he wasn't hungry or anything. I just held him and started talking to him with her on the phone, and then he just started getting happy, and I was like, "Well, now what do I do?" And she's like, "These are the moments you just sit there and stare at him because you won't be able to do it ever again." I was like, "Alright." So I would spend hours, as long as he would let me, just staring at him and, like, just touching him and loving him. So it's just those little moments, that I still look forward to as Leif grows up. Uh,
those
yeah,
are the best moments, by the way.
Yeah.
I miss it. Come on, little pinch for me. Those grandmas are like, "Let me pinch your cheek." But yeah, so my mom has been a really good figure in my life and still is when it comes to parenting. Yeah.
With my mom, she had a rough time. My parents had a rough relationships. They got divorced after my brother was born. If you guys have not heard about my brother, he was born with physical and mental birth defects and been tons of surgeries and everything. They were divorced by the time he was like 2. And she was just going through a rough patch in her life, and she kind of just MIA'd for about a year and a half or so. So here I am at 12 with a very special, lots of needs little brother and a dad that doesn't fully understand. He treated him a lot like he wanted him to be normal, and my brother is never going to be the quote unquote normal kid. And so it was me. So yeah, I have good memories with my mom when I was younger. But just a lot of things in their divorce, I sided with my dad. I was daddy's girl 100%. Eventually, as I got older, she is my mom. I will respect her as my mother, but she is more of a friend to me. I call her, we talk, a couple times a week and stuff like that. I very rarely will ever call her for advice or anything, and that's okay. Like that's just what it is. That's the kind of parent I guess I need, is just someone that to talk to, but not really be like a mom, I guess. I have a stepmom as well that I had throughout junior high and high school. And obviously, that's a big change as a teenager in the first place. I also had a stepsister that was the same age as me. So it was a lot of my dad took care of me, she took care of my stepsister. And I didn't really have a mother figure during that time as well. And then my dad is remarried now and got remarried as I was an adult. So I'm already an adult. I don't need another mother, but I have another mother. And we didn't start off very well initially either. And it wasn't until this last winter I messaged her and I was just like, it's been 5 years, and things have been crappy. And I'm sorry that I've taken out any of my past issues with my dad on you, not realizing it. I want to start over. So we're now starting over, trying to figure out how to be friends. And that's cool. But I didn't, in those formative years, I didn't have a mom. I learned everything on my own. When I got my first period, I was forced to go and stay with her once a week for court orders. I would steal stuff from her bathroom and go home. And eventually, after I think it was almost 5 months, my dad finally found out when we were on a trip and it started and I didn't have anything. And I had to tell him. And he's like, I don't know what to do. So he found his friend's wife and was like, can you help her? So I had some random lady take me to the store and teach me about pads and stuff like that. My best friend taught me how to shave and how to use a tampon. And so I just connect to other strong women around me. In the same kind of thing when I had Charlie, I already had a ton of experience raising a kid and raising a baby when I was even still just a baby. And a lot of that went into raising Charlie and working in an industry in photography where I'm around kids all the time. I picked up stuff from all the parents that I really admired, and I admired their families and stuff like that, that I would ask them and was like, what tips do you have? As soon as I found out I was pregnant, every single family that came through, I asked the mom if they had any tips or tricks or things to keep in mind and stuff like that. And that's how I learned how to raise my kid, is literally the full village mentality of things. So mine's on the opposite side of a lot of that.
I think it's important though that people hear, the different aspects of what a mother figure is. It doesn't always have to be your biological mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you definitely show a lot of what you have learned from being so young, taking care of your brother, through Charlie. You were so hands-on and so good with him. That kid is brilliant because of you.
Yay. But I mean, with my mother-in-law, I have a great relationship with her. I was scared of her for the first few years. But eventually once I became accepted into the family, by everybody, then it was easier. But I used to never call her by her name. I would just wait until we would catch eyes and then I would start talking, hoping that she would realize I wanted to talk to her.
Do you call her by her name?
She's Mama Lupo now, but or I call her by her first name, or she's Grandma.
I don't think I've ever called my mother-in-law by her first name. I'm scared of her. She's Italian and
my mother-in-law is very Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just Mom. I call her mom or mama.
Yeah,
but
that's hilarious.
I
Did you
call her
guys
by her first name.
growing up? Did you guys did you want to be a mom, since you were little, and then did you want a big family or a small family?
I've always known I wanted a family. I definitely, for a long, long, long time, exclusively wanted boys because I had such a rough relationship with my mom as a kid. I was like, there's no way I want a girl. I had such a good relationship with my dad. I was definitely a daddy's girl. All of my guy friends that I saw were like mama's boys, and I was like, this is a no brainer for me. Obviously, I want boys. Like I'm like, it's all gonna come full circle and bite me in the butt. And I'm gonna have a girl, and she's gonna be a terror, right? But
Being a boy mom is the best.
it is. It totally is. But my brother had a girl, and I am obsessed with my niece. I love her so much, and I think being around my niece and then being around my best friend's daughter, it really like shifted my perspective and shifted something inside of me. And for me, I am a really strong female personality. Like I always have been, and I just think it would be really cool to raise a little girl to also be like a really strong woman. And so to me, I think now, because I only want 2 kids, because the first is a boy, I'm really excited for the second to come because either way I'm gonna be really happy. So, yeah. But I've always known I wanted kids. I've always wanted 2 because I grew up as an only I have half brothers, but I wasn't really raised with them growing up. So,
Mhm.
I moved around a lot when I was in school, I was always the new kid, so it was really tough to go through that solo. So I've always wanted at least 2 so that my kid can have a sibling to go through the hardships with, especially when you have a bad relationship with one of your parents, to have someone to commiserate with and relate to the stuff that you're going through is, I think, so important. So
Yeah,
for me,
I feel you on that with wanting more than one because of that. Leif is unfortunately so much older now that I don't know if there would be that bond anymore. My biggest reason why I haven't had another one is because of my health. The last one, she nearly killed me. There was water, lots of fluid built up in my liver and my kidneys, and then I had to have a double blood transfusion with her because I
wow.
was empty. My body was like, my heart was failing. So now I get scared and I'm like, I've been a surrogate. I might need a surrogate if I want another one. But I feel like I was born to be a mom. For as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be a mother. I always wanted 4 kids because I came from a family of 7. So I
Mhm.
always wanted a lot of siblings for my children. And life didn't work out that way. And so we do our best to make sure Leif is like really close to his friends. Like one of my best friends out here, she has 3 daughters, and they literally call Leif their brother,
Oh,
and he calls them his sisters. So they have this strong bond of siblinghood. There are moments though he'll ask me, and it breaks my heart. He's like, "Hey, mom, I would really love a sister that like lives with us because he knows his siblings, like he calls them his siblings in China." But he's like, "I want one that lives with us." And I'm like, "Buddy, I don't know how to explain with like, if I get pregnant now, it'd be 9 months before I have the baby, and then probably, like, 4 more years before the kid's interested in anything that you're interested in, and by that time, like, you're gonna be a teenager and not interested in anything the baby's doing." So, uh,
So
but
I'm 8 years apart with my youngest of my 2 half brothers, and we definitely were not close as kids, but I will say as adults, age becomes less of a factor, obviously,
Mhm.
and now that we are both, like, raising families and stuff like that, we're super duper close, and I'm really grateful to have him in my life. So,
My brother's
I need
10
to hear
years younger than me. And so, same thing that Sam you were talking about with him being 10 years younger, added on him having his special needs and everything like that. But even then, even if my mom was around, I still would have been like a little mommy to him because I would have helped out with my family and everything like that. So, the big age gap, I see both sides. Like Ben's 9 years apart from his oldest brother, and it isn't until now that they're adults that
Mhm.
they're super good and super close. But as kids, like by the time that his oldest brother was out of into college, Ben was just
Mhm.
becoming like a teenager in a few years, kind of thing. And so it they didn't really connect on anything in that
Mhm.
age range at all. I always wanted to be a mom. I knew when I was little that I was just going to be a badass boy mom, and I wanted a boy, and that was it. I only ever wanted one. Occasionally Ben and I talk about it would be cool to have a little girl or another kid. I do not want to have it come out of my body. But Ben also has this thing where he's not 100% sure on adopting. It's something that he's trying to work out himself. And I'm totally open to a surrogate, but then I also feel like that's such a rich white person kind of thing to be like, you know, I don't want to do it, so I'm just going to have somebody else do it, versus people that use surrogates, like Sam, your guys' situations is where they couldn't have kids and stuff like that a lot of the times. And so I always feel bad just relying on a surrogate as an option because I just don't want to. I feel like there's a huge difference between somebody who can't and they strive and they struggle to get the money and all that kind of stuff because surrogacy is expensive and it may or may not work and they got to do it all over again. But then here I am rolling in and I'm like, I just want to be lazy and not have a baby. So that's like a big struggle that we have going on, is that I'm all for adoption. Ben would rather do surrogacy, but we are not on the same page with it. So we're like, you know what? It's not something that's really pulling at us to have more than one right now. So if it ever is, then we'll sit down and have the conversation and maybe somebody's opinion one way or the other.
Well, if people are gonna judge you for a way that you want to become another mama, they ain't worth your time anyway.
Exactly.
They're there for a reason, many reasons.
Yeah, but it's just like a thing that I need, that either Ben needs to work through with adoption or I need to work through with surrogacy of like, is my brain ready for that, basically. I always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted a small family. I was an only child for 10 years. And now between step siblings, my brother and in-laws, I have 15 siblings. And
oh my goodness,
it's a lot. It is a lot to handle. I don't have good relationships with majority of them because a lot of the time, a lot of it happened when we were adults. We met as adults, and that's, it's a little harder. And going from being an only child for 10 years, and even when my brother was born, I was still kind of an only child because I didn't have a sibling to play with, really. So it wasn't until my first step siblings came in when I was like 14, is when I got actual siblings that are like my age to interact with. And by then I didn't want anybody else because I was totally chill by myself. So I've always wanted to be an only child. Charlie expresses occasionally that he would like to have somebody to play with. That's how he puts it. But I told him that it would be a baby first. And he's like, oh, no. So.
Exactly. They got to go through the baby stage first.
Exactly. I don't think kids get that.
They don't come out walking and talking. I promise you that.
Yeah. So we talked about a lot of stuff. We hit a lot of our things that we wanted to cover just in our fun war stories. And I love swapping mothering war stories with moms. I think it's the greatest thing in the whole entire world. I mean, moms have to literally, again, make and birth the child. They have to feed the child. But then also we have to be doctors and teachers and do carpooling and come up with games and be creative and clean the house, but also be a wife for majority or a wife for a significant other in majority situations too as a parent. And you have to then usually work and you have to, do the laundry, all this kind of stuff. There's so many things that moms have to do. I'm not saying that we're not discounting dads in any of this, but there's just another level being a mother. So to wrap up, if you had to give one tip, trick, advice to a new mother, what would it be? And then also quickly describe what your dream Mother's Day would be. Because that's coming up on Sunday, just in case your significant other is listening, maybe they can pick up on something. So, super moms, speaking of in chat.
So I guess my tip, tricks, or advice would be ask for help. That's the number one thing I would say. Here's the thing. At least I know for me and a lot of the other moms and women I've met, they're all really amazing, strong, capable people. And so they go, I can do this. I can do this on my own. I can do this. I got this. It's my baby. I got this. And you got it, but you have to also make sure that you take care of yourself. And if you keep being the only one that's got it covered, then you're going to spread yourself really thin. And then you're not going to be able to be the best mom that you can be because you're so tired or you've got so much on your plate or so just kind of letting go of that I have to do everything mentality and really being okay with asking for help from either if it's your parents if they're in the picture, or if it's your partner asking for more help, or if it's your best friend to come by and give you an hour so that you can shower, because all those things are really important. And my other tip, which is because I'm currently in this, don't trust Google for everything. It's
No.
really nice that we have the internet as a source of information, but there is so much misinformation on there. You got to really don't just look at the first tab or the first website that pops up. You have to get in the weeds and make sure that you see multiple sides of the picture, because otherwise you'll just scare the crap out of yourself. So don't always Google, and make sure you ask for help. And then my perfect Mother's Day, honestly, Brennan's got it covered. The boys are coming over. They're gonna make us breakfast, and then they made us massage appointments. So I know I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna say pretty much the same thing when it comes to advice of definitely asking for help, especially in specifically early stages after birth. Your hormones are everywhere, and that's okay. It's absolutely okay. And you're gonna have moments where you feel like dirt as a mom. And as somebody who's been a mom for a really long time, it doesn't really go away. You're always questioning, am I a good mom? Give yourself grace, because if your baby's happy and your baby loves you and is living a really good life, of course that's subjective, but you're doing great. I promise you, you're doing better than you think you are. Another thing is, for those early mamas or future mamas, if you do feel off, don't feel afraid to talk to your doctor about postpartum depression. It's intense. And there are moments where you will tell yourself, just as Steph was saying, you got this, like you're fine, because you know you're strong. However, you can be stronger. You can. And there are people out there that are going to help you as long as you ask for it. Another tip is, you don't need a lot of the things that people say you need. You do not need a diaper warmer. You don't need a diaper genie. You don't need a changing table. You don't need a lot of these things that
I feel
Google will tell you.
personally attacked right now.
The thing is, I had these too, and you know how much I used them? I never did. The floor is a great place to change a diaper in my
Yep.
opinion. So that's fun. However, if you do have a boy, there are these things called
PPTPs.
PPTPs.
Yeah, those are great.
No, they fell off all the time. We just used a washcloth.
Yeah, if I didn't have one near me, I would definitely just use another wipe. Like I would
Mhm.
on the wipe, because they are a little chilly. I would just put it there. But that's always fun. And then my dream Mother's Day, I don't know. I just really like being around my boys. Like I just want to be around Leif. My favorite thing that he ever does is makes me homemade things, and that's just perfect to me.
Mhm.
And going out on walks and stuff together, and just hearing him talk to me about his life now, like at the stage that he's in, it makes my soul so happy. Like I can't wait, Steph. I can't wait for you to get to that.
So excited.
Hearing your baby tell you about their life, what's going on in their head and their hearts, and how they're coming to being who they're going to be. Like it's great. So I just want to be around my boys. I don't care what it is. I'm watching you, Eric. I know you're in here.
I can't
But
wait for the first mommy I love you. I think I'm
It's the
literally gonna
best.
die.
Especially when it's out of the blue.
No.
Like when they just tell you and you're like, oh, okay. It's so nice.
No, when it goes from mommy to mom,
Oh, when it went from mama to mommy, I was like, oh, you don't
I
say
just
mama
said it.
anymore? And now
I know,
Charlie's
I'm
like, you're my mom. I'm like, no, I'm not.
it still stings a little. Leif will be like, "Hey, mom," and I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
it's mommy."
I'm mommy forever. My tips, I'm kind of piggybacking off of Sam's because you piggybacked off of Steph's, is that if you feel off, it's okay to feel off. It's okay to not be 100% over the moon in love with your baby. because there's going to be times when you're not, and that's okay. Because I feel like so many people, they feel like if they don't love their child all the time that they're a horrible parent, and you're not. As long as they're fed and warm and loved, they're going to grow up to be great human beings. My other one is that I tell every single parent that, especially when I had newborns, when I would take photos of them and everything, I would say that the fourth trimester is a real thing. And the first 3 months is literally survival mode. And that the hormones in the baby, that's what it is the baby's only trying to survive in the first 3 months. So that's why it's around 3 months is when they do their first big smiles and stuff like that. They start interacting, they start recognizing and seeing things and holding things. It's because for the first 3 months, they are literally just trying to stay alive because they don't know anything else. And that it's okay, especially with a new baby, to put them down in a safe spot and walk away. That was the one thing that Ben and I exercised the most. Charlie was screaming. We'd put him in his crib, close the door, and just go sit in the hallway for 5 minutes. Nothing's going to happen to him if he's crying in his bed. If you just need a moment to breathe, because it is better for you to be happier in that moment in a stressful situation with a baby, because they don't know any different and they can't help it. The last thing that anybody wants to do is to be so stressed that they hurt their kid, whether they mean to or not. And so anytime that there was a situation where Ben and I felt like we were fuming because we could not understand what this blob was wanting, we would put him down and we would walk away and close the door and just sit there and breathe and just talk ourselves through what we've already done, take a breath, go back into the trenches and try to figure it out. So those are my 2 tips. And then my dream Mother's Day, I love the homemade stuff too. And I'm actually kind of sad now that I'm thinking about it. They usually do stuff the Friday before, like Mother's Day or Easter or Valentine's Day or whatever kind of thing. Charlie's not going to be in daycare tomorrow because he's going to be going to kindergarten roundup. So am I going to miss my Mother's Day thing this year? I'm going to be so sad. I'm 99% sure I will. Mine is, just to feel like that the attention is on me for a day, because for most of the time it's not on moms. I love the homemade stuff. Even if Charlie just drew a heart and wrote "I love you" in it, I would put that next to my bed on the wall every single day. And yeah, it doesn't need to be anything fancy. I just want to be asked what I want to do, and have somebody take some time. We talked about about our love languages, and gift giving is one of my biggest love languages. So to know that somebody went out of their way to think about me is like the greatest joy in the whole entire world.
Yeah. Oh, think of your mamas.
Yes, everybody think of mamas. And even if you don't have a good relationship with your mom now, a quick Happy Mother's Day text can go a long way. And it's never too late. I thought it was too late with a few of my moms to fix things, and you can be almost 35 and restart your relationship with a parent. So definitely think that that's something to keep in mind too. But yeah. Steph, thank you so much for being on our show about mommies. If you want to quickly let everybody know where they can find you on the internet,
tell us.
It is at FemSteph on everything. So Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all that. Thank you guys so much for having me. Yay! I love talking with you guys. You guys are awesome. Being a new mom is really hard, and seeing you guys thrive and kill it and still do everything that I hope to be able to do in the future makes me fill with joy. So thank you guys for being great role models. I really appreciate it.
I like that we all got different perspectives of ages for today.
Yeah, we had that last week too with Clintus, that he had older kids, you have mid-range, and I have younger. Now we have baby and little kid and big kid. Exciting. Well, thank you, and happy Mother's Day to all the mamas out there, and happy Mother's Day to you ladies. I hope that you have great Sundays, and we'll see you guys all next week. Bye.
Bye.